Howdy and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. I am Will Stone. He is Chase Caldwell. He is fresh back from his vacation in Costa Rica.
Yeah, Pura Vida.
What does that mean?
I think it means pure life. It's like the country's like saying.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm more of a carpe diem kind of guy.
yeah. Well, I tell you this, Costa Rica. If it's not on your bucket list, make it on there, because it wasn't really on my radar necessarily until I got invited to this trip. Like it would have been a place that obviously if I got invited to go or somebody was planning a trip there, I'd be all about it. But
Yeah.
if I was like planning a trip from step one, it probably wouldn't even be on my radar of like places to look at.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, what fun! And now it's like in my top 5 of places I want to go to next. Like, and it's somewhere I've already been. Like it's
Yeah.
that doesn't normally happen with me. It's like, okay, I've been there, check that one off the list. Now I got to go to the next place, But
And you weren't there very long, so I'm sure there's a lot more that you didn't get to do that you'd like to do.
yeah, the biggest thing is we didn't go explore like the rainforest. Like I would have loved to go see the rainforest and stuff, but still saw all kinds of wildlife. We had monkeys in like the trees at our house, and
It's so cool.
we even saw a raccoon there, which was like a weird looking raccoon.
I didn't know raccoons existed anywhere else.
There was a squirrel there. I tried to get a picture of it. I swear to God, the tail on the squirrel was like 6 foot long. Like it was, it looked like a lemur. Like, you know how lemurs have really long tails. And so like I went to take a picture of it and I realized it was a squirrel. That squirrel was like, I don't know how to explain it. It was all of 2 foot tall. Like it like realistically like 2 foot tall probably.
Yeah.
And biggest squirrel I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But
have you seen the picture of the bat on social media? It's got like a 5 foot wingspan.
No, I can't say I've seen the picture, but I've seen one of those bats at Disney World Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
And they'll blow your mind how big they are.
Oh, they're huge. They're huge. I'm not sure what country that one was in, but it was going viral on Twitter the other day. But just a huge ass animal. But no, that's awesome. A buddy of mine went to Costa Rica a long time ago, and he raved about it. And it's definitely like I've got like probably Italy is higher, or like it's like our first round draft pick, our first overall. But after that, like Costa Rica's in there with like Ireland, even Cabo. I know Cabo sounds basic, but I've never been. I always wanted to go. But it's great. But
New Zealand is at the absolute top of my list for sure. But yeah, like Ireland and like some of those European countries are up there too.
Yeah.
But this is my 4th country to visit, including the United States. I've now been to France and I've been to South Africa and Costa Rica.
Right.
So
you're so well traveled.
Yeah, I have
such a worldly man.
I've well, I don't know what continent. I don't know if Costa Rica is considered North America or South America, because it's really like Central America, I guess. But so I don't know what like continent it's considered. But that's very, very like American education for me to not know that. But
this is one that show. I don't think the show comes on anymore, but that Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Oh yeah, that was a great show.
I just think it was so stupid, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, like all this knowledge is useless once you get into the real world, so we just forget it.
Hey, I'll tell you this though, if it came to like useless knowledge, like if useless knowledge did anything for you in life, like I would be prime minister or something like. I have so much useless knowledge up in this noggin, it's ridiculous.
I feel like we could start like a traveling trivia team and just like clean up.
Oh, I want to go to that trivia place that y'all have gone to on Thursdays, but
I think they stopped doing it after we won and beat everybody so bad. I think they just quit doing it because they didn't want us to come back.
You remember the app Trivia Crack, where you would just like play trivia against everybody? They have an episode or like a deal on Netflix right now.
Do they really?
It's Trivia Crack, and it's like you just like play the game on Netflix. It's really cool.
Oh,
but
man.
like
I'll just sit there
and just mop up. So good at that game.
Yeah. Well, this is still a football show, so we'll start getting into some football stuff. But
Yeah.
just had some life updates and fun things to talk about. But we had been teasing a big announcement, and kept pushing the date back and pushing the date back, and it took a little longer than we'd hoped, but we got it out there last Friday, and we officially launched the Ineligibles.com, which is a kind of a home for all of our content. It includes a blog, which we have one blog post authored by myself, and we hope to have much more soon. But I'm still like, it's also got a podcast tab, so like our podcast is on there, all the recent episodes and things like that. Um, I'm still waiting to, like, I'm still trying to figure out this whole like SEO thing, and my like our site has not been indexed by Google's algorithm yet. So if you search us, you won't be able to find it, at least not yet. But just go to theineligibles.com, just type it in your browser, and you can find us there. Don't want to set my sites too ambitious, but I'd like to do probably 2 posts a week. But it's TBD. We want at this point last year we thought about doing. Well, our plan was to do 4 podcast episodes a week, and that was a little too ambitious. So.
Very ambitious of us.
It may just be 1 post a week. I'm still working it out, but so yeah, that was our big announcement.
Yeah, go check it out. Will did a phenomenal job on the website, and I haven't fully read your blog post yet. I read a little bit of it right after you posted it, but have been busy and keep forgetting to go back and read it. So I'll probably read it tonight whenever I get done with this, because I did read enough of it to be like, man, this is some significant content if you're looking for some more. So go check it out.
Yeah. So the post that's on there, it's about 3,300 words. And it's a lot more than most of the future posts will be. At least like the vast majority are going to be probably between 500 and 1,000 words. So, but it was good. Like there's so much, like we were talking last night, like it was like when we launched our podcast, there was so much stuff to catch people up on. Like, this is where A&M was in the past. This is where they are now. This is where they're going, and recruiting and, the current roster, things like that. So, but I'm excited about it. I've always wanted to write more, and I don't know. I feel like we belong in the college football zeitgeist, and we're going to take up as much space as we can. So, if you've been listening, we appreciate that. If you go read, we appreciate that too. But without further ado, we'll get into some football stuff and some fall camp stuff. Fall camp started last Wednesday. I think as we were on air, it was last Monday was the show that me and Hayden did, right? Not Wednesday.
Yeah.
So yeah, we haven't even talked to you guys since fall camp started. So a lot of changes, like right out of the gate. Some coaching changes were quite apparent.
Yeah. There's the coaching changes, and then I'll also mention that he said 2 of our players medically retired from football, which you hate to see, but Hezekiah Jones and who's the other? Donnell Harris.
Donnell, yeah,
are they're still with the team, but they're not playing anymore. So, wish those guys most success in life. I was kind of curious on how he would fit in when we had the receivers episode, but now that he's no longer going to be playing, I mean, that just most of the guys that we went over still kind of they're going to fall in the same categories that we talked about earlier. But coaching changes, the kind of coaching carousel within the team of, let's see, Coley went to receivers, and Craig went to quarterbacks, and then Dickey moved to tight ends. And I have to say, I am a big fan of this change. For no other, I mean, for any other reason, just to say there's a little bit of shakeup and just brings new coaches to the same players that might benefit from a coaching change, with their coach still on the team. So it's not like you're on a full on coaching change.
Right.
But I think Craig will do a lot better at quarterbacks than receivers because I think that's going to be his specialty anyways. And plus you got Jimbo as the fallback there anyways. He's going to have an input on that.
Yeah.
But Coley, I think, is going to be really good with our receivers, and I think that's a change that we really needed because when we talked about tight ends, we talked about how much depth was there. I think Dickey will make for a great tight ends coach, but I think we have enough depth there that you could have just another guy there and probably do pretty good, So
Yeah.
I think overall the team got better just from that switcheroo,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to see what changes that brings about.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. As soon as I saw that, it was kind of shocking. Like you really don't see moves like this, like intra-staff shuffles.
Yeah,
It's usually coach goes somewhere else or coach gets fired and you bring in someone new. You don't really see like a musical chairs kind of thing where and props to Jimbo for doing it because
right.
uh, it could be like a difficult topic to bring up. Like if you're like, "Hey, Craig, we want you to do quarterbacks," he's like, "What? Am I not doing good at receivers?" Like, no, it's not that. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
like we just want to get you in your natural spot. But Jimbo's been with these guys for so long.
Hmm.
Like he's coached a lot with Craig and Coley both. Um, and I believe he was Craig's quarterback coach when Craig played
Yeah,
at Auburn.
Auburn. Yeah, he
Um,
was, and then Craig's been with him almost ever since as a
yeah,
receivers coach, and so that's what makes me wonder if he won't be better at quarterbacks because and not to slight a coach that's on our staff, but there's been question marks at receivers, and he's been in charge of those receivers. There's some question marks at receiver before Jimbo came to A&M. If you look back at the last couple of years, he was at Florida State, and
right,
so then it's like, well, are you putting Craig in the position where he's going to be the most successful? Again, I don't necessarily doubt him in the receivers position necessarily, but I think he'll be more successful at the quarterback's position because that's where he played, and he
right,
knows Jimbo's style because he played for him, and he's been around it long enough coaching the receivers that I think it's a better natural fit. And there might have been some discrepancies between Jimbo's play style at quarterback and Dickey's, and maybe that you know maybe having a guy that played for Jimbo being that quarterback, it will allow Jimbo to be the quarterback whisperer that he supposedly is.
right.
But the
Well,
biggest
and
thing is Coley at receiver. That I'm just a
yeah,
big fan of.
yeah. Well, and with Craig, like he's been, like as a player, like he got yelled at, he got cussed out by Jimbo. So
Yeah,
like he's had that experience. He can be like he can kind of uh uh he can explain that to the current players. Be like, hey, hey, I've been in your shoes. Like I know what it's like, and he knows the offense like pretty well because like he played in it and they've been together for so long. But
hmm,
yeah, I think it's not that Craig was like did a bad job with the receivers, but
right.
I think you like it helps to have a fresh set of eyes sometimes, or like a little change of scenery or something like that. So um, if you go back and watch that the the broadcast of the national championship game where they have the A&M coaches, like they're in the film room at the Bright Complex or whatever. Um, Coley was like the most local guy besides Jimbo,
Hmm.
and like he's like asking questions and pointing things out, and you can tell that he was like very involved in like the offensive schematics, and
Right.
like and like we said, like he's coached with Jimbo like before for a long time. He was actually Jimbo's first call to be OC whenever Jimbo got the job at A&M, but Coley opted to stay at Georgia, and then ended up coming over a couple years later, and yeah, I think all in all, it's a great development for the team,
Yeah.
and it's a great coaching staff. So I'm even more excited for this year than I already was, which is
Yeah.
and it was hard to top that because I was already pretty excited. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, Will recently went to the open practice as recent as yesterday.
Yeah.
So Will, give us a rundown of what you saw at practice, some big key points, key takeaways, and then we'll jump into D line.
Yeah. So I think first of all, like I'm so grateful that they do this because for so long, like all we get is a spring game and the 5 minute clips, of guys stretching at the start of practice.
Yeah,
That's all we've ever gotten. But
right.
now they did this last year with the open practice. They did it again this year, and I hope it's a new tradition or like a new yearly thing that they always do because it's fun to it gives me a reason to go to College Station, which I love to do because
Yeah.
I like if it's not football season, I rarely get over there. So that part's good, and then just being able to see the guys in person, especially like the new guys and
Mm-hmm.
like guys that have been hitting the weights and transformed their bodies and things like that, and just kind of like observe practice and see what that's like. It's really cool. I know Chase, you saw 1,000 practices in your in your day, so you're like, it's just another practice. But
Yeah, but I've really only been to one Jimbo practice, and it was enough of one to be like wowed by how different it was.
oh, that's right. Yeah,
So yeah, it's I think it's a cool thing. I think it's good for people to see what it looks like behind the scenes, and
yeah,
yeah, I wish I could have gone. If they would have done it on a Saturday, I definitely would have been there. But
yeah,
Sunday was just a little bit too pressed for me to try to get back.
yeah. I feel you. So I've got a lot of observations that I'd like to point out on this episode. I'm going to save the D line for last, and we'll kind of use that as our starting off point for the preview of the D line. But um, I know people want to hear about quarterbacks. They're rotating every day. Um, I know we in our quarterback episode we handicapped it at 40% King, 40% Max, 20% Wigman. I would probably reduce Wigman's to like 5%. At this point, it seems that like Haynes gets a day with the ones, and then Max gets a day with the ones, and then Haynes, and then Max, and so on and so forth until they pick somebody.
Yeah.
But Connor's been with the threes pretty consistently, so um, that's expected. I mean, like he's a true freshman. It's a complicated offense, um, but I think the biggest takeaway was they all three look pretty good, and
Mm-hmm.
they probably looked as good as they could have against the defense they were going against. Our corners were blanketing our receivers, and our safeties were too. Like our DBs were tremendous, but the receivers showed some improvement. But as far as the quarterbacks go, King was with the ones yesterday, so that's what I got to see the most of, and he looks really good. Like he's, I think there's a noticeable, if slight uptick in his arm strength. Obviously, he's still got his wheels. I've seen a few people say this, and I'd have to agree. But it seems like he's kind of the commanding presence out there. Like he's been in the program for what is his third full year now.
Yeah.
Like he's been around the block. He knows this program. He knows the offense. Like he's very confident in what he's doing, and it shows. But like you're not going to see guys in practice just throwing 40-yard bombs and shredding our defense. Like that's not going to happen. So
Yeah.
and it didn't happen, but uh, the separation was hard to come by for the receivers, but he put some balls in some tight windows, and I think it's like playing NCAA on Heisman mode. Like
Yeah.
you go from that, and then you take it down to like rookie or just pro, and you just start shredding defenses. So like,
Yeah.
and he's not the starter yet. So like, I think whoever it is will be very very happy to be going against Sam Houston and App State, and not this fearsome A&M defense. But that's kind of my takeaways on the quarterbacks. But at running back, I said when I went last year that Amari Daniels really popped, and he didn't get a ton of reps last year because we still had Spiller, still had A-Chain, and Amari was with the like threes and fours. But he flashed then; he's flashing again now. I think he's kind of really making a push to be that second running back after A-Chain, and also A-Chain. I need to find. And I talked about having Heisman odds on him, but I need an offshore book to put him up. So I might can partake, but because this like he's so underrated on a national scale. And I don't want to get on an A-Chain rant because Chase and I could definitely do that.
Yeah.
But he's so good. Like, not just running the ball, but like you can tell that they're going to throw to him quite a bit. Like they're going to, have him run routes out of the backfield. They're going to line him up out wide. He's going to be the focus, like the focal point of the offense, and he's going to do a tremendous job. So I can't wait to see it. The receivers. Obviously, Evan looked good. Anias was out with a finger thing. Like he had two fingers taped together. I think he's back today. I saw the clips as soon as we were getting on. He's back in full pads, or he's in shells. But what stood out at first was Noah Thomas. I wanted to see Chris Marshall. He was sidelined, unfortunately, with a I don't know what injury. He looked fine. Like he was in shorts in his jersey, just taking mental reps, but no cast or boots or anything. But Noah Thomas was with the ones like the entire day, and it was not due to injury. Like Yul Keith was in the slot, Evan was at one outside receiver spot, and then Noah was at the other. And Noah and Chase Lane kind of rotated quite a bit, and then I think Evan and Moose rotated quite a bit. So like those guys were really got most of the reps with the ones, and I think Jalen Preston as well. But it speaks a lot to have him like Noah Thomas was not here in the spring. He got here in June, and after 4 practices, he's getting reps. He's getting time with the ones. So like it's impressive, and it could be nothing. It could mean a lot. We don't really know, but these young receivers are just so talented that they're going to push to see the field. And maybe with Coley, like maybe he wants to rotate a little bit more.
Well, that's what I'm kind of hoping for. Yeah.
Yeah. So I could definitely see that happening with especially once Marshall comes back. Hopefully pretty soon. Wouldn't shock me to see Evan start and see the other two guys get considerable playing time.
Sure.
Sorry, I take a break. I was talking for a while. Real quick, tight ends physically look tremendous. I think we can all glean that from the videos that they've been putting out. But Jake Johnson looks awesome. Theo Orstrom looks like a future pro, and Donovan Green looks great. They all three did some nice things. Max Wright did some nice things, and so did Blake Smith. So that's going to be a battle. On the O-line, Foster and Moko were in shorts. They didn't practice. I know Moko's back today. I don't know about Foster, but the rest of the O-line was intact. Zune at left tackle, Aki at left guard. I'll say this: the inside running game, or the running game in general, is going to be very, very good this year. Because as good as our D-line is, Fothery and Layden were getting some push and opening some lanes, and it's going to be good. I can just tell you that right now. Pass pro, I told Chase this last night when I was driving home. When I went to the practice last year, I felt so bad for our quarterbacks because it was King versus Calzado. Like one's trying to someone's trying to win that job and show their abilities. But our D line was just so good, and our O line was so young that like the ball snapped and DeMarvin Leal's in the quarterback's face, or Tyree Johnson's in the quarterback's face, and it just wasn't fair. So the D line is still good, and we're about to get to that. But the O line gave the guys a lot more time this year than we saw last year, and I think it's just because they're more experienced and they're more talented now, and it should be a good unit. I'm excited to watch it. But to wrap us up real quick, linebackers, Edrin Cooper will compete to be an All-American this year, I think. He had a pretty good year last year, kind of broke out a bit, but was all over the field yesterday.
And he stood out a lot in the spring game too.
Yeah. Yeah. He probably had the play of the day yesterday where A-Chain was on like a wheel route type thing and was like had him beat by like 4 or 5 steps, on his way to the end zone. And the ball was underthrown a bit, I think, just to keep him in bounds so he wouldn't like run out of the end zone. and Cooper just comes out of nowhere and just like collides with A-Chain and just rips the ball away at the last second. I was like, "Holy crap! Did he just catch that?" like it got a rise out of the crowd too. It was impressive to watch, but he was all over the place. I don't know when I've seen Andre White up close last, but he's the other starting linebacker, and he's huge. But he's not like he's not like fat. He's just a big built dude, and was moving pretty well and making some plays. So um, I like them a lot. The depth's pretty young, but hopefully we can keep those guys healthy. Um, I did see at the start of practice, you probably saw on Twitter that Miles Jones was helped off with an injury. It's making the rounds now that it's just a sprained ankle. So
that's good.
If it was more, they would it would have been a lot more hush hush. So
right.
I think he's going to be okay. But after when he went down, the DBs were pretty thin, which it's a stacked position group. It's got a ton of depth, but all the freshman guys weren't playing. They were in shorts and t-shirts or their shorts and jerseys, just watching on the sidelines. That it was Denver Harris, Bobby Taylor, Smoke Bowie, Tyreek Chappelle, who's a starter. He wasn't practicing, so it was Jalen Jones, Brian George, and Josh Moten. And I'll tell you what, I think we forget that Brian George is on this team, and he's a pretty good player. He made a lot of good plays yesterday, and it's good to have him. This is his third year here, I think, from JUCO, and it's just good to have that experience. If someone goes down, it's not a complete drop off. You're not putting a walk on out there. You're putting a pretty good player, but and then the safeties looked awesome. Obviously, Antonio Johnson, Damani, Jordan Gilbert looks great. Looks like for now they're going to keep Antonio in the slot or in the nickel spot, and start Jordan at free safety. But all in all, it's to really sum it up, this is a physically impressive looking football team, more so than we've ever had, and maybe the most the best looking position group is the defensive line. And we'll get into those guys if you don't have anything else, Chase.
My mom wants me to mention Damani.
I just saw that. Damani, he's set for a big year.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be good. So, well, tell us about D-line and start us off with just what you saw yesterday, and then we'll jump right into it.
Yeah. So most of them were practicing. I was a little disappointed because Walter Nolan was not practicing. He's fine. Of all the guys that weren't practicing, it sounds like they're all fine. There's nothing major. No one's on crutches or in a boot or has a cast. I think it's primarily freshmen that aren't that were sitting out. So it's probably just them getting acclimated. Because this is their first intense fall camp, and they just need a breather. But
yeah, and the heat is tremendous.
Yeah. So didn't see Walter, but he looks great. He's trimmed down quite a bit to probably 300, 310. And who else wasn't practicing? Albert Regis wasn't practicing. He looks fine. Gabe Dendy did not practice. He's coming back from the ACL, but I pointed him out to Brittany, and I was like, because he wasn't out there at first, and he came out later in the practice. And I was like, hey, you see number 99? She's like, yeah. I was like, he's a true freshman. And she's like, that is a 30-year-old man. I know there was some thought that he might be an end. That is a 3 technique all the way. He's going to be a damn good one when he gets on the field. But
yeah,
he's built like a tank. But of the guys we saw, they all look good. But the name I want to start with is a name that I think a lot of Aggie fans forget about because he missed his senior year with an injury. He redshirted last year and obviously didn't play at all. But it's Marcus Burris. Now, Marcus Burris was a name that we mentioned in the spring of as someone that we thought stood out, that looked good. But, he gets lost in the shuffle of, we got McKinley Jackson and Shamar Turner and Isaiah Rakes and Walter Nolan and all these guys. And, Burris is just as good as any of them. He looks tremendous. And I think I forget the ages of some of these guys until I've got the 24/7 like class breakdown pulled up, and all these guys are like sophomores or younger. Like they all have at minimum 3 years left at A&M, and I think Burris, as deep as D tackle is, I think he gets on the field a lot. I think he sees a lot of playing time, and rightfully so. But I'm a big fan of his.
Well, I remember when we went to the state championship,
absolutely,
and we were going because at the time we were after Landon Jackson, who's a
right?
5-star, and I guess the class above him, or is it?
I
Or
think
the
they
same
were.
class.
I think they were the same class.
Regardless, I remember we had heard, you'd heard Marcus Burris's name, but he wasn't quite like at the time. We might have had. I mean, it was pretty much assumed that we were going to get Landon Jackson, which we didn't
Right.
end up. And so we went like to watch him, and I remember us both coming away with like, and Marcus Burris actually looks like he might be the better get of the two.
Yeah.
And that was who we ended up with. So
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, he gets lost in the shuffle, and it's hard not to. I mean, we have so many guys
so
that
many
we'll talk
of them.
about here. So who else stood out to you?
So yeah, I think like the freshmen obviously stand out, but the next two guys I mentioned were both inside guys. And it's McKinley Jackson and Isaiah Rakes. Yeah, I think we latch onto a name sometimes, and like when they play well, we're like, okay, that guy can play. Like he's always going to be good, and that's just all we think of. But McKinley like had a pretty good freshman year. Was hurt last year and didn't get to play, but now like he's fully healthy. Him and Rakes both have really slimmed down and cut some bad weight. They're both moving exceptionally well for men that weigh 320 pounds still, even after cutting some weight. But and Jimbo pointed like he actually singled them both out in his press conference as guys that are being leaders and being more vocal and taking on leadership roles and really stepping up. So I think if you get McKinley Jackson, as good as all these guys are, if you get those older guys like Jackson to play at an all conference level, this defense is going to be something serious. But he was all over the place yesterday too, like with inside pressure and just making plays and things like that. I think Rakes has always been that big like run stopping looking guy, but now he's with him dropping some weight. He moves so well. Like he can provide that inside pass rush while still being big enough to hold up against the run. Like it's really quite impressive to have those two guys, as your two starters. Well, I say that, but we didn't see Shamar Turner. He's back today, and he's another guy that's going to be in that rotation, and he might start. Former 5-star, true sophomore. But so I didn't get to see Turner. I did get to see, Burris, Jackson, Rakes. Those are kind of the main guys on the interior. But these ends, man, that's a good looking bunch. Like if you gave out the off-season weight room award, it'd have to go to Fidel Diggs.
Really?
I don't know if you've seen any pictures of this guy at fall camp, but the dude's just jacked. Like he's really put in the time in the weight room. And like having so many talented true freshmen, I think we tend to forget about like these older guys. Like not everyone is an impact player immediately. Like some guys need a couple years to adjust to the college lifestyle, adjust to the demands of being a football player and a student athlete, and just to develop physically. Like not everyone is ready made to be a All-American at 18. And Fidel Diggs is, I think he's really hitting his stride. He's primed for a big year. But what shocked me the most was to Michi Adeliere, who, I think he's going to be a great player, was with the twos, and he was displaced at least for this one practice by Anthony Lucas. Anthony Lucas in the spring game, he was a guy that we were like, man, this guy wasn't even one of the 5-star D linemen in that freshman class, and he looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, if this is the 5th best guy, like how good are the other 4 guys going to be in front of him?
Right.
But I feel like I I always get these guys backwards. Like whenever we signed Michi and Shamar Turner, I thought that Shamar would stay on the edge and that Michi would be an inside guy. Let's flip flop. Like Michi's got he's got a longer frame. He's more equipped to be outside, and now Turner's inside. I had the same kind of deal with Gabe Dendy and Anthony Lucas. I was like, well, Lucas is probably going to bulk up to 300 something pounds and be an interior guy, and we'll stick Gabe at end. That's not right. Gabe's going to be a 3-tech or an inside guy, and Lucas is a unicorn of a defensive end. He's 6'6", over 270 pounds, and with a 8 foot, or not 8 foot, like a 7 foot plus wingspan and just crazy athleticism. He was really the only guy that gave Ruben Fatheree a hard time yesterday. like Ruben held his own against pretty much everyone, and then he went against Lucas in one-on-ones, and I think he went 1-1 in his 2 reps. But Lucas is going to be a force, and I thought Michi was the player of the spring game, and he's with the twos right now. So there probably won't be starters, when it comes to this D line. Like they're probably going to rotate pretty much every series just because they're so damn good and they're so deep. Like you have to get them all on the field, and like why not rotate? Like give your guys a breather and keep them fresh. But those are kind of the top of the line guys. I saw Michi a bit. He was kind of on the other end of the field, so I didn't get to see him a ton. But like the next, honestly, I think the best looking of the freshman bunch is Shamar Stewart. So there's 2 Shamars on the defensive line. It can get confusing, but Shamar Turner is a second-year guy, defensive tackle. Shamar Stewart, true freshman, defensive end. Looks like an NFL defensive end today. Like he's over 6'4", 285 pounds, but like not fat, carries it well, is he's a guy that is physically developed already. Like he's not going to need 2 years to get ready. He's ready today. Yeah. And I think I told Chase last night, I was like, if they were in a live game, then Shamar Stewart probably would have had at least 3 sacks, if not more. So he was wreaking havoc. And there's so many more, like Overton looks great. He's supposed to be in high school still. He graduated a year early. He looks phenomenal. Eni White looks good. Malik Silla looks good. There's, I don't want to forget anybody, but there's just so many names, and they're all blue chip players. And there's the competition is so stiff. Like the guys that play are going to be just out of this world good. And honestly, I think, outside of maybe. Actually, I don't even know. This might be the best defensive line in the country. Like, it may not be what Georgia had last year, not right away, but all those guys for Georgia are gone except for a couple of them. So I think they're going to be good. Bama's got a good D line, obviously, but this group is as good as anyone else in college football.
Well, you'd be hard pressed to find a plethora of talent at a position like we have here on paper.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, that's translated to the field, of course, but just looking at it on paper, you've got 16 guys at the position, 5 of which are 5 stars. 3 of which are 3 stars and everybody else is a 4. So you're talking about 13 of your 16 players at a position where you're going to have 4 guys on the field, are 4 and 5 star players. On paper, I don't know how you would find a better D line in the country, and it's bound to be one of the highest in history in terms of the just sheer talent, and so that's what I'll say about the guys that we have on there or on the roster is there's so much talent at that position that I've had a hard time in preparation for this episode figuring out what I would say about each guy, because I don't want to spend 15 minutes just being like, well, this guy he's so good, and this guy he's so good. I don't want to just compete. I don't want to repeat myself 16 times,
Right.
and that's really what you would end up doing here. So that's really where it comes down to, is that the guys that are on this roster at this position are so good that you can't even split hairs between them. And that, I think, is the exciting part, is because, I think a lot of people that listen to our podcast are probably listening to, like, who do we need to be looking for, this season, and who's this 4 or 5-star receiver that's coming on that I should be looking for, and generally speaking, that's what I enjoy about recruiting and everything like that, because we'll play, college fantasy, and I'll go out and get the 5-star freshman that nobody knows
Yeah.
about, that's about to ball out.
Exactly.
That's why I've ran the table with Laviska Shenault and Rondale Moore and all them. I couldn't do that with ours. I would just probably draft our entire D line, because think about it this way, and I might accidentally leave somebody out here, but we had, just in recent memory, in the past 10 years, 5-star D linemen. We had Myles Garrett, Dalen Mack, and DeMarvin Leal.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's
so
it.
With those were our last 3 D linemen, all of which I guess is Dalen Mack. He's still in the NFL, right?
Yeah, he is.
So all of 3, obviously DeMarvin just went, but we have 5 of those guys on one team. All 3 of those guys played at various different times. I think there might have been a little bit of correlation between Myles Garrett and Dalen Mack. I guess there had to have been, because they both played while I was there.
Right.
But I mean, that is insane to think about, that you essentially could field a line of nothing but 5-star guys, and have one 5-star backup on the sideline.
Yeah.
That's just crazy to think about. And so that's where, again, looking at on paper, I can't, unless you want to get your pen and paper out and write down 13 names, that's how much it would take for me to just explain the 4 and 5-star guys, the blue chip guys. And then the 3 that weren't technically blue chip guys have done pretty well for us in the time that they've been here. Isaiah Rakes, I've always been a big fan of him. So
he's a 3-star guy.
Yeah, awesome. And he's 3-star guy, but he's a great player. So really, I think what we should say about the D line is, this is by far and away going to be the strength of our team. Yeah. And really, it's so cool to see, how this position has just continued to reload. Even when Sumlin was here, when Sumlin was here, that was always the one position that was good, was D line. And when we had a new coaching staff come on, I'm kind of like, oh man, like, we're gonna lose Terry Price. We kept him, and that consistency, he's just continuing to reload. And what's crazy is, it seems like every year they get just a little bit better and a little bit better. I can't, for the life of me, imagine how this group could get better.
Yeah,
but it's possible, I guess. But to me, this is a championship level defensive line, and I do think that you'll see a lot of guys switching out, because why not? I mean, why wouldn't you, when you have this sheer amount of talent, that you keep guys fresh all the time? And I know that there's a big contingency of people who say that we're going to have a lot of transfers out. But quite frankly, at a position like that, where you're getting a lot of hits, you're getting a lot of it's a tough position to be at on the field.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those positions of, well, if you have this much depth, that's a good thing. If you can show how good you are, then that just means that you're not putting yourself as at as much risk, and helping yourself long term on your career. So in my opinion, that's more of a recruiting thing, just to say, hey, look, we've got so many guys here, you're not going to be expected to hit the field so much. And one other key to that I haven't really thought of until I'm just talking out loud right now is that allows you to take more risk as an offense. If we've been, if you look back over the past couple of years, we're so conservative at offense and very methodical and slow playing, and that's allowed our defense to be really, really good because they don't play as many snaps. We have so many guys now, we could play a ton of snaps. We could go, air raid offense all the way and not even worry about it.
Run like 90 plays a game.
Yeah, because we got 3 defensive line units on the field, and they're all 3 of the best defensive line units in the country. So it's now granted you have other positions at defense, but that's the biggest thing, biggest key to me, because we've been seeing it build for the past couple of years. We've been seeing him being Jimbo, recruit almost an abundance of guys at this position each year, and we knew it was building. And then last year he just blew the roof off of it with that recruiting class. So I guess the biggest thing to me, it's too hard for me to name. I could just list the guys if you wanted me to, because there's so many of them that don't even worry about who's named who. Just watch the defensive line and know that they're going to be really good. And our defensive line's gonna hold their own on this play. Yep. Oh, they're going to again, because that's all you're going to see all year.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be so good. Like, it's going to be a national story for the next couple of years. When you look at this list, like we said, like only 3 of these. Like, first of all, there's 0 seniors in the whole bunch. There's 3 guys that are juniors. The other, like, everyone else is a sophomore or younger. I mean, like, maybe McKinley goes after this year, but I doubt it. Like, you're probably going to have this whole group return next season. Which is, like I can't even get started on that possibility and what that means. But there's something you said in there about like that allowing you to be, more risky on offense. I was listening to a podcast earlier today talking about Georgia last year, and it was a split zone duo, by the way, if you want to go check them out. But they're talking about how, like, by efficiency metrics, Georgia's offense was like 5th in the country last year. You wouldn't think that because they were very methodical and, things like that, and they didn't score a ton of points. But one of the hosts was like, well, like, they never had to play from behind, like, ever, like, the entire year. like they were playing with all the cards. Like, when your defense allows no points, you can do whatever you want to on offense, and and go at your own pace, and it's probably going to work because you're going to get so many chances to get the ball and score points. So, with as good as I think our offense could be with the talent they have, that makes this a dangerous football team with how good this defense could be. But
absolutely,
when you look at the recent defensive lines that have been like some of the best ever, in the sport, Clemson comes to mind with the group they had. Obviously, Georgia last year with what they had. I think Clemson's, like, 3 of their starting 4 went in the top 16 picks in the first round. It was tremendous. And Georgia had 3 guys, three linemen go in the first round last year. But neither of those units had the star rating that this group has. Like, it's nuts. Like, and don't get me wrong, like Jordan Davis was a 3-star. He probably should have been rated higher. Obviously he was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, a couple of 5-star guys sprinkled in. Like, Clemson had, like, Dexter Lawrence and Christian Wilkins were both 5-stars. The other guys were just, like, pretty good 4-star players. And that's what's underrated about this group is even the ones that aren't 5-stars, most of them are top 100 players still.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Like borderline 5-star.
At least 2, if not 3 of the 4-star players that we have at some point in time during their recruitment, like, and I just mean like during their senior yeir when they were recruits, not back when they were sophomores or freshmen.
Yeah.
They were a consistent 5-star at some point. So like wasn't Tune Miche? He was a 5-star at one point.
He
He
was.
ended up a 4, but I mean nationally he was number 39 in his class, and I think there's 32, 33 5-stars each class. So
exactly.
7 people away.
Yeah.
You're splitting hairs there. And then Marcus Burris, wasn't he a 5-star at one point too?
I know he was up there. He finished at 132.
It seemed like Anthony Lucas was too at some point. But
I think Anthony Lucas was like, he's a 5-star on 24/7's rankings, but not the composite.
Regardless, it's just like they're like, you're not just talking about just 4-star guys that just barely got there. It's like guys
like in the 300s or something like that.
Yeah, so it's an embarrassment of riches that we have at this position, and we have it at a position where we have some of the best development. I mean, the best development that we've had under Jimbo. The best development that we had under Sumlin was under Coach Price, and now look at what he has to work with, and that's just.
And Coach Robinson.
And Coach Robinson too. I mean, Coach Robinson is just as good of a coach. But it's just like to see that this has been the consistent position each year in, year out, and then now this is what we've got. Like this is the best unit we've ever had at that position, and we have. Like if you look over the past 10 years, you could say, yeah, well, we might not have been all that great, but our D line, man, it was fantastic, and here we are sitting here with the best that we've ever had. And so if you're not excited to see our D line just absolutely wreck some offenses, you need to start getting that way, because you're right. If we play from ahead all year long because our defense is that good, we're going to be very, very competitive because we just that's what I hope to do. I hope to be able to be that team that, we take an early lead and then we put the foot on the gas and don't take it off till it's over,
Yeah. Well, it's what Bama used to do, like back before they had like a high flying offense, and the Solid Verbal, which is a podcast that I like quite a bit. They came up with a term for it, and it's called crockpotting. Like you don't really like. There's no like big moment in the game or anything, but like a crock pot, you set it for 3 hours, you look up and it's 45-3. You're like, oh, like how did that happen?
Yeah, that's a great. I like that.
So you might see A&M on the crock pot this fall, but I think it's a great point with the coaches. Like, think about how good that D line was last year. Like, A&M was like top 5 in scoring defense. Like, it was a really, really good defense. Great, even. And of those 4 guys, like Marv was a 5-star, Peavy was like a borderline 4, Tyree was a 3-star, and Clemens was like a running back and safety in high school who went to JUCO and Cisco and got to A&M at like 230 pounds and then becomes this grown ass man that gets drafted in the 4th round. Like, they developed those guys. Like, they developed guys like Kingsley Keke and Landis Durham. And Dalen Mack, like he had a great senior year under these guys. And Bobby Brown, like he got drafted. So think about how good the line has been, and then think about what those coaches have to work with now. Like it's mind blowing. It really is.
Yeah. Was Bobby Brown a 5-star coming out of high school?
I know he was back and forth.
Yeah, I remember he was at one point, but I don't know if he ended up that way or not. But if he was, then there's number 4.
Yeah.
We named 3 earlier.
Actually, so I went and looked up his profile. He dropped out of the top 100 altogether, surprisingly.
Wow.
He finished at like 182.
Well, and that's what I'm talking about. I mean, it's just it is insane to me.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it this way: if we played 4 D linemen, we could have 3 groups of nothing but blue chip players.
Yeah. You might even have nothing like you might have nothing but top 100 players.
Yeah. Your first two groups would probably be top 100 players. So,
Oh, easily.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point in even breaking down each individual guy at this point. Like granted, once we're in the season, we will, but
Well, and that's why guys like Burris get forgotten about, because like we're excited about McKinley Jackson, we're excited about Walter Nolan, and then when you look up on Saturdays this fall, you see big number 91 making plays. You're like, who is that guy? It's Marcus Burris. Like there's so many guys on this. Like it's, as much as I follow this, I can't even keep up with their numbers, because like they all look the same. Like they're all just these huge defensive linemen. And I'm like, okay, like who's 6, who's 4, who's 8, like who's 18. Like they couldn't have like just wildly different numbers. That would make it a lot easier. They have to all have all have similar numbers.
And the funniest part about the whole thing is like, if you looked at this list of guys compared to the list of guys that we talk about in all the other positions, you'd be like, oh man, this is going to be a super long episode. But like, there's so many, it's opposite effect, where there's so much talent that like, I'm going to bore you to death by going over the exact same things just for a different guy each time. So I can't wait to see how they manage all of that talent. I think that's my biggest, like, what I'm most excited to watch. But
I've got the same scouting report for like 90% of these guys. Okay, so they're 6'4" plus, they're 270 plus. They have extremely long arms, and they move like much smaller players, and they have great get off. That's the entire D line.
They're very multiple.
Very multiple. We should have some multiple fronts. I think multiple fronts is a good name for a podcast. I guess the last point I'll make is I bet you see a transfer here and there. We actually saw one before fall camp started, and Jazion Harris, he transferred to Rutgers. I think like he's from New York, so he went back up there. But 4-star player, like probably going to be a good player, but there's just too many guys. And like he was a guy that I really liked, but he's not real big. Like he's like weight wise, he's probably like 230. That's one thing about these defensive ends. They're all huge. Mm-hmm. Like I love Tyree Johnson. He was awesome. But he was like a 240-pound guy. But these guys are like, the lightest one is 270 at defensive end. Like they're just massive human beings. And I will say this, I think, I mean, obviously they're going to be extremely good, but I don't know if we see the pass rush right away. Like if one of these ends is, that Tyree Johnson, that Michael Clemens, that can really get around the edge and get to the quarterback. I bet they can, but we have to see it first. But that's one thing that stands out, is that this is definitely the heaviest D line in the country. Like most people's ends are not this big, like just because like they don't exist. Like there aren't humans that are built like this, at least not very many of them. So it's just something to marvel at, and I can't wait to see it on the field against Sam Houston, against App State, and especially against Miami in that third game.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, we've got an incredible D line, and that's all I got to say about that.
And that's like I could go on and on about the national media, but a lot of folks will point out that we lost all 4 starters, and these guys are so young. How are they going to do it? And then just go watch them in person. You'll be like, okay, that makes sense. I think they're going to be all right.
Let them doubt us. They hate us because they ain't us.
That's right. Housekeeping before we get out. I think we're going to try to wrap it up this week with the roster. On Wednesday, tackle, get it? Linebackers and defensive backs. I think we can put that one episode. Yeah, I think we're good. But keep it locked into theineligibles.com. Check out our post on there. More to come this week. And thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.